Well, welcome back to another edition of 42nd Street Pete's Grindhouse Summer of Sleaze edition. And let's pull up our Fly for a minute. I mean, The Fly. I'm not going to cover the first movie because that was a science fiction classic. But the two that followed, well, not so much. The second film, Return of the Fly, came out in 1959. And basically had Brett Halsey as the son of Philip Delambre. And he is taken down to the lab, which is pretty much messed up. And he runs into his uncle, again played by Vincent Price. And Vincent is trying to talk him out of, restarting these experiments. But he has this guy who he's involved with, who he doesn't know is on the run from the law in Great Britain. And there's a cop hot on this guy's trail. So he decides to recreate the whole thing after conning his uncle into helping him out, and he's not going to make the same mistakes that he made before. Well, the guy who he's involved with is going to basically figure out what he's doing and sell the thing to a guy who runs a funeral parlor who's a black marketeer. So the detective from Great Britain catches up with him right after they had teleported a white rat into a machine and are going to bring it back the next day. So he gets in a fight with this guy and basically kills him, but then throws him in the teleporter and sends him on his way, but brings him back. And here's this guy sitting there with big rat feet and rat hands. And there's a rat that has human hands and human feet. So he basically kills them and gets rid of them. And then he has a problem with Mr. Delambre, who he knocks out and throws into the teleporter. And just to fuck him up, throws a fly in with him. So then he comes back. And where the first film had like a normal like fly head, like, a human, sort of a little bigger than a human head, this thing had this monstrous fucking fly head on it. And he's got a fly hand and a fly foot, and his head's, the other fly's floating around, help me, help me, help me shit. And he's out in the woods running around, running from the cops. And the weird thing when he's running, the good hand is holding the head because as he's running, the thing's sort of wobbling back and forth like it's going to fall off. So he goes to the funeral parlor and kills the funeral director, then kills the guy who fucked him. And then he goes back and they put him in the teleporter and bring him back and all is well. There's only 2 kills in the whole movie and that's it. And as bad as that was, you'd be hard-pressed to top the third film, Curse of the Fly from 1965. And this one is split between, actually it was filmed in Great Britain at Shepperton Studios. And okay, we can't afford Vincent Price this go around. As a matter of fact, we can't even afford a fucking guy with a fly head. So we'll bring in Brian Donlevy and have a whole new cast of characters. But this one opens up with a woman escaping from a lunatic asylum who meets the younger Delambre somewhere and marries him right away, much to the chagrin of everybody. So they go back to the estate, which is pretty much isolated in Canada, and they're teleporting between Canada and the UK. And just like every other mad scientist movie, the rejects are kept somewhere else. I mean, you remember The Unearthly, they kept the rejects in the basement. Mad Dr. Blood Island, they kept the rejects in a cage somewhere. Well, this one, they have 3, I guess, helpers that were teleported and came back missing shit or fucked up. So they got them all out in the back. And one of them's the Delambre's former wife, who basically was a pianist, and her hands and her arms all fucked up, and she's got half her face melted. There's another big guy in there who's all melted and shit like that. So what they decide to do is send them over to England and let their cohort over there dispose of them. Well, they put basically a couple people into the transporter, and when they show up, they're sort of welded together in a really creepy fucking scene. So now they have to make this thing where they decide they're all going to escape to England because something happened over here and they're looking for the people who are missing, whatever. So Brian Donlevy is sent over there, and then the younger Delambre calls up Great Britain telling them to expect Delambre, but we see the whole lab has been wrecked. Whatever was transported over there has an axe in the middle of it. It's covered with blood, and the lab is in shambles, and the guy over there walks away crying. So something happens to the younger Delambre. He gets in a car. His wife's trying to drive him somewhere, but the law shows up, and when the law opens the car, he's disintegrated into a skeleton. Like I said, this is not really, the whole thing was, it was put out on a double bill with Devils of Darkness. Both of them are in black and white. I don't know if I mentioned that Return of the Fly is in black and white too. Obviously a cost-cutting measure. But this one was slapped on a double bill with Devils of Darkness, and it completely tanked because what people wanted to see was a guy with a fly head, and they didn't get to see it. So all these are available. It's going out of print now. Shout Factory just threw it out of print. The 3 Fly movies, the remake and the sequel to the remake, all in one box set. And you can snag it on Edward R. Hamilton Bookseller for like $40. So it might be worth it. The Blu-rays, of course. So that's our show for today. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for tuning in. Above all, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the flip side.